was built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on the gas, never stop competing. If you break my glass, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah.
I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it. You know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic. Keep them out your face, no way, you don't want it, yeah. Don't try to drain my energy. The enemy is everything. It's mentally, unhealthily, spreading like a rare disease. But I won't let it get to me. I don't need your therapy. I can leave a legacy of leading by intensity. Come on, we can fight this. Freedom is priceless. Spread just like a virus. Living in a crisis. Do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it. Go on and take your aim. Yeah.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the gas, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
When we get to the FBI, we don't know who did the work. You heard that any of that information is redacted. We don't know who did the work. It's a giant secret. We know that by the time the FBI gets involved, the profile, the text file, that's a snip to use to try to identify somebody is more than twice as big when it gets to the FBI from Othram. We don't know how.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me, an open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round, welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? I hope everybody is having a great Friday Eve. And I'm very excited for this stream. Per usual, I always look forward to 7 p.m. Central here in the Hive. If you are new to the Hive, welcome. We're happy to have you here. This is a contrarian thinking live stream where we're not afraid to think past the headlines. So if you are rattled or offended on behalf of others, this is probably not the stream for you. And if you're somebody who does like to critically think, maybe wear a tinfoil hat every now and again, connect the dots, try to find what the mainstream media is burying, and you're known as the quote conspiracy friend in your friend group, then you have found your people and welcome. Now, rather than just keep repeating the term NPC, which I get asked, what does that mean a lot? It's a non-player character. It's a gaming term. So if you were playing a video game, you know, obviously you're controlling your character, right? And the NPC would just be like characters in the game where they're already programmed into the computer. And nobody's really thinking or doing anything for them. Rather, they're just pre-programmed. And there's a lot of correlation to certain people that, I guess, walk around in society that you can just kind of tell. Lights are on, no one's home, they're not thinking, they're not asking questions. That's what's known as an NPC. But anyways, nonetheless, I want to say what's going on to everybody. What's up inside your bones? Janet, Brooke, that's right. Go on, get it. Lydia said unsubs. That's funny. What's up, Christina and Nicola? I love it, Sherry. Good to see you. UFO dog, scram, NPC. Gang, gang. What's up, Crown? Jim, what up? Aaron's tuning in from Fairborn, Ohio. Fiji me. Yo, 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 everyone. Happy Thursday. Discord, Dawn, what up? Berdino in the hizzy for shizzy. Me too. I mean, I thank you for being here. Tinfoil hats, chilling in Dylan's air conditioner. Shit. Keep your head on a swivel. Just kidding. 5 green acres. Sorry. I don't know why I just said that out loud. It's kind of just like the thoughts are coming in and it's just coming right out. 5 green acres, my fellow Wisconsinite. Looking forward to the Packer game this Saturday against the Seahawks. ATL Drew, 767 Woods, Gucci, my Louie. Halo Art, Gabby Girl. April in Texas. Michelle says they got their tinfoil hat polished. Good. Good. I love it. Cry Me a River. What's going on? Special Agent Rando's lurking from the bushes. Love it. Terry, good to see you. Secret Soul Survivor, how you doing? Scotland's in the house. Hey, Teresa, how are you? Steven. The Dark Diaries. How do you get your username to pop up like that? I've seen a couple people with like alt text. I think it's really cool. I don't know. I guess I could probably look it up, but off the top of my head, I can't think of how to do it. I don't ever see like a simple setting for it. So if you guys want to share how to do that, that'd be great. I think it'd be cool to have everybody in the comments with a different like a different type of font. Also, while I was just adjusting this here, do you guys, I'm gonna see if I can get this closer. Shoot. Can you guys see that okay? Or is it see that? Do you guys think that would make a dope keychain if it's metal? I think that would be sick. So I'm working on getting these. Obviously, I meant for it to be a pendant, but I saw a lot of comments saying that it'd be a sick keychain. So I think I'm going to do that too. If you guys would want that, I will. I actually started doing some research today on a manufacturer. So I think that'd be cool. And it's metal, so it lasts a while and it's engraved. So Ronnie, how are you doing? A lot of people are saying yes. Sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Love that. Truth Seeker says they've been waiting for the keychain. Nice. Where's everybody tuning in from this evening? Uncle Daddy Brother says, Birdie, Hive, hotter than a minivan full of fat guys in Cali. I can imagine. Probably smells better too. Euphoric's located in an FBI van down by the valley or down by the river. Say free candy on the side? I hope not. Yeah, I'll be able to ship internationally too. Got Norfolk, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Idaho, Deep South, Louisiana, Washington State, Chicago, Kentucky, Nebraska, Boomer Sooner, Indy, Wales, Columbus, Villa Park, Jumptown, Massachusetts, Kentucky, Florida, Kansas, Algonquin. I used to work in Algonquin quite a bit. Indiana, South Georgia. Roll Tide, Birdman. Well, War Eagle, Rebecca. East Texas. Straya. That was pretty good. Maybe. In my head, it sounded good. So hopefully it came through the mic good. Crazy land of Central Florida. I do feel like it'd be fun to do like a Florida headline of the day. It's funny how that was like a thing for a while. Like Florida news. Like, are you surprised that crazy shit's going on in Florida when you see it on the news? Copenhagen, North Carolina, Detroit says go Lions. Well, if I wasn't going to root for the Packers, the Lions would be my second team in the conference. Dallas, Louisiana, the armpit of West Coast, Eugene, Oregon, upstate New York, West Virginia, Spokane, Yuma, Naples, Utah. You got a road trip from South Florida to Tennessee. Will safe travels, Devo. Pennsylvania, Louisiana, Maine. Matilda's in my house. Love it. Vermont. Well, it is good to have everybody here in the Hive. And, you know, I found this quote fitting as we have all of these people staring at a TV that says obey. Obedience is the real prison. And I was trying to think through before I came on stream, like, how can I describe this for like everybody to wrap their head around? Like, what do I mean by obedience is the real prison? And the only thing that I could think of, and maybe this is a terrible example, but take yourself back to like when you were a little kid and you felt like you couldn't do something or you'd get in trouble for doing something because you've never done it, not because you're actually going to get in trouble for it. And I think of myself and then others now as I'm an adult. There are so many people that because they haven't done something, they feel like they may get in trouble for trying it. And I also want to say it is okay to be an adult and have hobbies just for fun. It's okay to start something and not be good at it when you start out and then get better at it. Personally, I think that starting out and kind of sucking at something, while yes, it may be discouraging, I think it's fun to get better at it and to see the progress you're making, especially when you're an adult. You're the one choosing to do it. Nobody's forcing you to do it. So what do you care if you suck at it and you're like, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm getting better at it, whether it's drawing or writing or singing or streaming, who knows, right? And it's okay to have hobbies and it's okay to not be good at those hobbies. It's okay to just do stuff to enjoy it. And if you think about the world that we're living in today, how many people even do that? How many people are able to even fully relax? Because when you try to relax, you then feel guilty about relaxing and not working. Oh, maybe you're not getting the laundry done. Oh, you're not running to the gym. Oh, you're not grocery shopping. You got emails to get back to. And then you end up laying on the couch or laying down for a little bit for 20, 30 minutes, thinking you're going to feel recharged, but you don't feel anything because you didn't actually relax. Can't get everything done at once. You can't be great at everything right when you start it. And now when you look at this obey on the TV, it's so much bigger than just obeying the laws. It's this construct that the TV and these shows and social media box you into. Everybody's rich and famous on social media. It's a highlight reel. I know it's probably not the first time that you guys have heard that analogy where everyone's just posting their highlights. And that is a prison. right? We're talking about Kohberger being in prison. We're talking about other, cases. We're talking about people who are corrupt. I mean, that's a prison for sure. And it's sad, really. And then I have this picture to correlate it, which is, in addition to that, everybody believes everything they see on TV. I have a slight tinfoil hat conspiracy, and that's back when, do you guys remember the saying, where'd you see that? The internet? I think that was a push to immediately, from the jump, discredit the internet, because the powers that be knew that communication in real time was eventually going to happen. And that saying, tell me it doesn't still hold true, especially in older generations, that the internet wasn't in their life their entire life. And they can't control the internet. Like they can censor it maybe on a massive scale. But as far as type stuff like this, I mean, we're communicating in real time. And, oh, where'd you hear that? Oh, some guy, Birdie, on the internet said it. And it's like, I'm just showing you what they said, but we're looking at it in a different light. Now I'm the crazy conspiracy theorist, right? So, and I think that's a strength of the Hive, is you can't believe anything that we're told. We're living in the weirdest time ever, actually. Aren't we? It's like simultaneously the weirdest time ever, the craziest time ever, the scariest, but it's also like futuristic with AI and crypto, and it's odd. It's kind of a clusterfuck, honestly. It really is. I mean, dude, look at our world and our society. I mean, I think about it. It's like, we used to be a civil people. We would put suits on to go to church, and we'd put suits on to fly in an airplane. Now, you go to an airport, you'll see somebody having a beer at 5:30 in the morning, and their joggers and a ripped t-shirt. It's pretty remarkable, isn't it? And I guess I don't really know if that's the internet's fault, but I do think that being able to communicate in real time is extremely important. And where I'm going with the theme is NPCs, rather than just calling them the NPCs, they are the script enforcement unit. They are going to believe everything that they see on TV. And I put out a Substack article today. I'm going to read a couple portions of it real quick at some point after the Hive Mind finds, because it's going to go into this theme right here. And these folks sitting on the couch consuming garbage. So, speaking of Substack, that and the Discord, Dawn was texting me saying that she was in a Discord. She was going hard on the Discord today, doing an overhaul. And I know she's got some help from other folks in the Hive. So thank you all who are working on the Discord, and we're putting in work today on it. That link, click subscribe in my YouTube, click more. Everything's 100% free. So that's a 24/7 off stream. Headquarters for the Hive is the Discord. I also got my TikTok, which I've been trying to also post clips again from the stream. So if you guys do clip something and you're in the Discord, post that into the Discord, and then we can all kind of disseminate it as we see fit. And then I have my Substack as well. So birdieBombshell.com it's up, it's running. There's current merch on there, but I'd consider that partially under construction. So those links are in my YouTube channel. The best way to support the stream is to subscribe. So like I said, every stream is free. I'm never going to charge you. I'm never going to ask you for money or slide into your DMs for a crypto coin that you got to go over onto WhatsApp for. That's not me. But I will say, if you can just press that subscribe button, I would appreciate it. Now, for the third ever Hive Mind Roundtable, the three members of the Hive that are going to be on it are Deb Janice, K, Boston, 99, and Los Estella. Los Estella. Now, these may not be their usernames for YouTube. I was going off their emails. I didn't see a username in the email. for YouTube, and I apologize. But obviously, you three, I'd sent you an email about an hour and a half ago, letting you know that you've been selected. We have until Sunday, obviously, but if you guys could please confirm that as soon. Oh, Namastella? Nice. Did I type that wrong? Did I really mess it up that much by typing law instead of nam? Well, anyways, I'm very excited for it. And well, damn, I messed that up big time then. Sorry about that. How would I even do that? Is that your email address? No? Okay. Christ. Well, congratulations to you three. And Namastella, I'm glad that you picked up on that. I apologize, but that's going to be, again, this Sunday. Usually it's the last Sunday of every month, but because of Labor Day and the holiday, people being out of town, I think that this Sunday will be just fine to do it. And all three of them had very interesting topics to go over. So, like I said, if you guys want to just quick confirm with me, send me an email back. I'll have you guys the link to join by end of day tomorrow. All right. Diego girl came with some absolute heat in this question, and I feel like it's either going to be a question that hits with some people, and it's like, if you know, you know, but if you don't, this might be a hard one for you to follow with just a quick explanation. But Diego girl, for the Discord question of the day, asks, or says, I know not everyone followed the Q stuff. So between you and I, how much do you think Q was preparing us for this time? Future proves past. You're watching a movie, TikTok, drip, drip, boom, sleeper cells. Those that know cannot sleep. Misinformation is necessary. Pay the frog stuff. All the sealed indictments. The hunters become the hunted, and so on. Well, I'll be fully honest. When the Q shit came out, I was deep, as you guys could probably guess. I was like, holy hell, this is the most insane, awesome, crazy thing ever. I'm watching documentaries. I'm watching Fall of the Cabal. I'm like, I know shit that I shouldn't know. The FBI is about to kick my door in right away. And if you guys were like that, I'm assuming there's people in the Hive that are probably wired exactly like me. And then you just had this crazy campaign of anti-QAnon. And for people that don't know, there's Q and then there's Anons. Like, QAnon is not a thing. As you can see, like, still to my core, that would piss me off when I would hear QAnon. But it's like, Q is one person or two people, depending who. You guys might see in the chat the name fly through. And then there's Anons, which would be essentially people like us that are on 4chan that are using an anonymous username or server where it can't be tracked. Now, the Q drops are pretty crazy. I was looking extremely hard because was there not a Q drop that lined up within like 24 hours or a day of the Kohberger plea hearing? Not the sentencing, but the plea one. Now there's also a lot of people, and here's the thing. I've learned, based on what Sherlock just said, I've learned this. If there's anything that Q and how much I was into it, it was that it taught me to ask questions about anything and everything that led me to even question Q itself. Like, what would the bigger purpose be? But you want to talk about, people are saying that it's such a bunch of bullshit. I will say this. It could be a bunch of bullshit, but it asked a lot of really crazy questions that in groups like ours, it woke a lot of people up to a lot of the evil shit going on behind the scenes. And I'm not sure if that was a part of their plan or whatever it is, but I am curious, since we're on the topic of it, who do you guys think Q is? Let's just see some of the answers. I'll put some of these up on the screen here. And for people that are asking what's Q, it's kind of, like I said, this is a question that you're either going to know or you're not. So it would be hard to explain it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Sherlock, to your point, I believe you said it when you were a guest, or maybe you were on the roundtable, but you had said, the best false flags, the best psyops have core pillars of truth built around them, and they sprinkle in just enough. Then they pinpoint that just enough, and they expose the person who was saying, that one thing that they purposely sprinkled in there, and now boom, everybody's discredited if you question it. Christ, some of these answers, but I see JFK, Q plus is Trump, the military, U.S. military, Mossad, JFK Jr., a bunch of military. A lot of people say Trump, military for sure. General Flynn. Yeah, General Flynn. I have gone and there's actually a really, really good video that does show like 15 of the craziest deltas. Some people are saying Elon, Obama, Christ. Maybe if it's a complete disinfo, maybe I don't know. Barron Trump, Dan Scavino, it's the aliens. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh, my mouse kind of bugged out. I was going to say, this is why I love the Hive, because we're all just saying stuff in here, and it's just interesting to see what everybody thinks. Some people are saying Melania, then you got the Illuminati, you got, the 1%er of both parties. You got Greta Thunberg, for Christ's sake. This is hilarious. I don't know who it is. I have no idea who it is. I would guess that if it's a white hat operation, right? I would guess that it's people in the military. So, yeah. I mean, and again, it's Brooks says it's a guy. Brooks said it's a guy in his basement. Somebody said Space Force. No way, it's Obama. He was in the middle of the corruption. It's Jake from State Farm, y'all. The Simpsons. That needs to be a conspiracy of the day, Don. I'm writing that one down. The Simpsons is nuts. The Simpsons predictions. I have no idea how they do that. Q is a think tank, including Flintstone, etc. Yeah. Snowden and WikiLeaks. Well, anyways, I'm glad to see that people at the Hive are at least aware of it. You can talk about it. And this is what I'll say. It's similar to the clip that Outcast posted from the stream about the crisis actors of the children from Sandy Hook having similar facial features to the Idaho 4, where I'm like, I don't even know if I believe this, but it's interesting. Just like going back to having a hobby you're not good at. Isn't it okay to look at something and read it? And it's like, wow, this is interesting, whether it's real or not. Like, are we that boring? Are we that boring that we can't even look into something that's a little bit weird? Because shame on you. Don't even think that that's true. That's like, I was watching the Netflix. It was like a Netflix documentary about the Area 51, like how everyone's going to Naruto run into Area 51 and storm Area 51. And it's so funny seeing the people from like the small town just be like, I'm going to kick that punk ass kid's ass for having everybody come out to our town of 56 people and all this stuff. And they took it so serious. It's like, really? Like, why not lean into it and embrace it? Like, it could be great for the business. You could get a ton of money from it. I'm sure it would do great for the economy, but I have no idea. That is an interesting hour and a half watch too, if you haven't done it. But anyways, thank you, Diego Girl, for the question. Moving on to the Hive Mind finds. So for the Hive Mind finds, this is going to be a little bit longer of one, but holy hell, Discord, Dawn had sent me this on Discord last night. And this is a comment on YouTube from Ashley91121. And I'm going to read this. So what it says is, I apologize for this long post. I've been following the Celebrite forensic analyst experts make their rounds on YouTube and mainstream media. Please help spread the truth regarding these claims by them. Thank you so much. Take care. They go on to say, as a seasoned forensic examiner with over 20 years of experience, I need to call out some major problems with the claims being made about Bryan Kohberger's Samsung Galaxy phone extraction in this case. Notwithstanding the defendant's guilt or innocence, the quote examiners are making some pretty bold claims. The defendant's phone was seized 47 days after the crimes that were committed on November 13th, 2022, and the extraction took place December 30th, 2022. These, quote, examiners who never had the physical phone reviewed the extraction in Celebrite, then Axiom. The examiners themselves admit that when reviewed in Celebrite, most of the parsed data shows up as unknown artifacts. This means the software could not categorize the extracted data in standard fields because it didn't match existing parsers. That alone tells you the data was not clearly interpretable with the tools available, which is why the FBI contacted them. The examiners claim the defendant cleared logs and data, creating a gap between October 12, 2022 and November 16, 2022, but then claim the extracted data shows the defendant deliberately disabling the Wi-Fi during his gap on or around November 11th, 2022, days prior to the crimes, to avoid being tracked. They go on to assert that during this same data gap on November 13th, 2022, the defendant deliberately disabled Wi-Fi, contradicting their earlier November 11th Wi-Fi claim, then powered the phone off by pressing the power button while at 100% battery, powering it back on about 2 hours later. There was a data gap, or there wasn't, but you can't have it both ways. I would love to see the actual report and artifacts they're relying on, because they are clearly forcing ambiguous, unknown data into a narrative that matches what FBI investigators wanted. Here's the technical reality from someone who has actually worked with these tools and how shutdowns and Wi-Fi toggles are logged. Android devices do log shutdown reasons and Wi-Fi state changes, but these logs live in a volatile system that buffers or small databases that are constantly overwritten. Artifacts could exist 47 days later in the and let me start that sentence over. Artifacts could exist 47 days later had the shutdown occurred due to a kernel panic crash or a dead battery, for debug or troubleshooting purposes as well. But they say the shutdown was a typical and deliberate power off initiated by the defendant, not unexpected or something that would have to be reviewed later to troubleshoot by a faulty phone. Sorry if I'm reading a little bit fast. I apologize. Someone just said slow down. My B, bird dirt. Once the device has been restarted multiple times, especially 47 days later, those entries are gone. They do not survive. There is no artifact that would preserve 100% battery at shutdown from 47 days prior. Battery level logging is ephemeral and unrelated to user-initiated power downs. Battery state logs 47 days later. Think about it. Your battery percentage changes dozens of times daily. Charging, unplugging, low battery warnings, drop in use. A 47-day record of every battery state simply does not exist on consumer devices because it has zero value for debugging or phone operation. Dude, that is so true. That is so true. While persistent user-initiated shutdowns and battery level logging, among other metrics, would certainly be useful for forensic examiners, phones are not designed for forensic examiners. They're designed for end users. These power down and battery logs simply do not exist in the way these examiners claim, period. The claim the defendant deliberately disabled Wi-Fi, then manually pressed the power button to shut his phone down at precisely 2:47 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, is a misinterpretation of data at best and an outright fabrication at worst. Google Android operating system and Samsung Galaxy phone do not publish white papers or deep technical documentation of their OS internals or device level logging. Forensic tool makers, Celebrite, Magnet, etc., rely on reverse engineering, testing, and observation, and Android/Samsung updates constantly break or change those findings. This means what examiners think they're seeing in unknown artifacts is often guesswork, not definitive, not scientific. The tools themselves are black boxes. Just like Google and Samsung don't open their internals, Celebrite, UFED, and Magnet Axiom also don't reveal exactly how their parsers work. The only real transparency comes from third-party audits like the NIST's testing program, which has repeatedly shown flaws in both tools, especially around artifact interpretation and timestamp handling. Those flaws have directly led to cases being dismissed or lost in court. These flaws often exist for years before being addressed. This isn't digital forensics, it's ghost hunting with a Celebrite license. Allowing these examiners to go on TV, repeat these impossible claims, and present them as hard fact without consulting independent, unbiased examiners is disingenuous, misleading, and frankly, bad journalism. They've been making media rounds, promoting their software, and chasing clout with claims that are contradicting, misleading, biased, and outright false. The public may see them as experts and accept their words as fact, but those of us who actually work with these tools know they are really taking ambiguous, uncategorized, unknown artifact data and forcing it into a narrative. That's awesome. I know right now too, there's people that are just crashing out. Just, I'm screenshotting this. Birdie's spreading disinformation. Well, cope harder, honestly. I haven't heard the news say one damn thing as crystal clearly laid out in this investigation as this freaking YouTube comment. Unbelievable job, Ashley. Thank you, Dawn, for sending that to me. That was a really great read. And man, it's a shame, isn't it? It is a shame. They get on TV because it all goes back to what I'm calling the script enforcement unit, everybody. All these people who believe everything they hear about Bryan Kohberger. Isn't it odd they want it to be Bryan Kohberger more than they want the right person? It's rather sick. Let's be honest. Now, American Warfighter, and he emailed me and he said that he changed his username. So I'm sorry, brother, if you're in here. I don't remember what the new one that you said it was. This video is unbelievable. And when I watched it, full transparency, I've heard a lot of it, but I've never laid it out in the order that this video does. Now, one of the things that I really do enjoy doing is promoting really good content, like Truth and Neurons and other people's that I've shown on this channel. I don't know this person, or at least I don't think that I know this person. And if I do, I'm so sorry. I can't remember the username off the top of my head. So if I open this and I see that you are in the Hive, I apologize. But this is just an unbelievably great video. And
okay, we're gonna talk.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna open this up into a new tab. So this is from Neeks Peaks. This is their channel.
Okay, we're going to talk about the complex issue of drug use today. Viewer discretion is advised. Meeks with the Peaks. In this session, we're going to delve into the surrounding myth, rumor, allegations, and associations with illicit drug-related activities in 1122 King. And I'm going to draw from my personal experience as a child of a substance creator and user and give you guys some firsthand insight, otherwise known as putting you guys on game. So who taught me legal and counterintelligence? My dad. Whenever I tell people that, they're like, oh, yeah, my uncle's a judge or my mom's a court clerk. And I'm smiling, you know. Oh, this world where lineage is revered and children born close to the blue line stand as a testament to the legacy of courage and sacrifice. Their ancestors, warriors of freedom. They stood barrel-chested and admired, leaving an indelible mark. Some kids are just born to the red, white, and blue. And these children dream of living up to the heroic names of their parents and carving out a little piece of that uniform for themselves. themselves. My own burden was different. My young eyes didn't gaze upon a wall of honor where my dad was. My dad was on a wall with other strangers, criminals, and I was taught not to carve out a piece of his uniform because it was orange or had stripes. That's right, I saw my dad on wanted and watch list. And I knew a guy one time who was a drug manufacturer, a bank robber, an illicit drug user, but I just called him Dad. You know what I did inherit from him? An uncanny ability to sense the presence of police or operatives. I can spot them and distrust them. My biases are deeply ingrained, to say the least. One corrupt cop to one corrupt county. But look, I did not expect to find this in this case. I mean, it actually blew my gourd. I don't think I've ever been interested in a case where I came to it and thought.
So I'll read this. After years of investigation, the federal government successfully exposed fraternities and sororities at the core of drug organizations and money laundering through the utilization of undercovers and informants. So again, this is the biggest theme that people need to wrap their heads around with the Idaho 4 case. If it doesn't make sense to you, if you're new to the Hive, if you're new to looking into all theories, and all you've heard is that Bryan Kohberger went in with a K-bar and did this, understand this slide or what I just read first.
Wow, this is a fucking task force. These are undercover operatives. These are informants, etc. And I always feel like I'm called to a particular case, like for a particular reason. And I kind of had this like epic spiritual moment, sort of like, what the
Investigators charged 21 people they say operated a drug ring in and around Duke, UNC, Chapel Hill, and Appalachian State University. The U.S. attorney said many of them are current or former students.
Even people who don't even look into true crime, they're like, oh, have you checked out the Idaho murders? And I'm like, damn, you're following the Idaho murders? And I'm like, no, I don't know why everyone's so into that case. And multiple people kept, I don't want to say bugging me, maybe inspiring me to check out this case. First videos that I checked out were, of course, the body cam videos. Police the police. So I'm looking at the grub truck video. What the hell is this? So without much more digging, I'm able to find the announcement from the DEA about a years-long investigation announced pertaining to 3 particular universities and multiple fraternities. And those exact same fraternities also have chapters at the University of Idaho. How scandalous. So speaking of which, you know how universities commonly have problems with keeping the frats and sororities under control. They often have large benefactors behind them, and suddenly the university doesn't have millions of dollars.
So it says, while working a drug case several years ago, the Orange County Sheriff's Office received information about the sale of illegal drugs on campus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. In November of 2018, agents and officers assigned to the DEA's Raleigh district office initiated an investigation into the distribution of cocaine, hydrochloride, and other illegal drugs in the Chapel Hill area. It became clear early in the investigation that illegal drug distribution occurred at or near some UNC fraternal organization properties. Court filings to date specifically allege illegal drug activity involving the UNC chapters of Phi Gamma Delta and Kappa Sigma and Beta Theta. I can't even say it. You guys get the point. Occurring between 2017 and the spring of 2020. Over the course of several years, the drug ring funneled over 1,000 pounds of marijuana, several hundred kilograms of coke, and significant quantities of other drugs into these college campuses. Estimates of the total drug proceeds are not presently available, but they exceeded $1.5 million.
Donate it to it anymore through those benefactors if they piss them off. This is exactly why the United States should just ixnay fraternities and sororities out of university altogether, but what else? More to the point, whenever some shit does go down, they love tooting that off-campus housing shit. They love to cop out and pretend, well, there was nothing they could do about it. But there is, because if the university would take away the fraternity from the school altogether, they wouldn't be able to cause mayhem off campus. However, often this is the exact setup that goes on at universities where they have Greek Row, which is often located on campus property, and then they have the off-campus sorority and fraternity houses behind Greek Row, or, in front of Greek Row, probably depending on the land, yada, yada. But a part of what makes tracking fraternities so complicated is the different chapters. It's like charting multiple gangs and large syndicates. Each chapter has a subchapter that they're working on at each respective university. And
this is not a situation where you have single users, where you have a 19-year-old sipping a beer, where you have someone taking a puff of a joint on the back porch of a frat house. These are 21 hardened drug dealers.
This gets even more complicated because much of the property that they own are owned.
Could you guys imagine if an investigator said that about the Idaho 4 case? Oh my God. But it's just unbelievable. I couldn't even imagine what that would be like.
Owned and managed through asset managers or some other third-party controller. This makes the land, the deeds, and all of that harder to track and also harder to easily pin a property on a frat or a sorority. I mean, obviously, 1122 King was a frat house. It was a sorority house. It was related to a Greek community, one of them or many of them. I've even wondered if Estee was particularly chosen for this because he has a weird pedo charge, and that can almost be a distraction within and of itself because, as I pointed out before, I don't think we need to hone in on just Estee. I think that Estee is a part of a syndicate, and that big old charge kind of takes the power away from the fact that he is probably and most likely managing it for a fraternity or through the same company or affiliation. Now, let's talk about some of the ways that syndicates keep from getting busted and the reason why undercover operations depend on informants. And practically, the majority of these charges would never happen without a cooperating defendant or an otherwise cooperating civilian. Some of those fronts include things like establishing a property company. This can serve as a front for the syndicate.
The investigation centers around 3 UNC fraternities, Beta Theta Pi, Kappa Sigma, and Phi Gamma Delta, and one at App State, Delta Chi.
It just so happens that Moscow was actually looking all the way in the next town, little old Troy, and the gas station that it was reported received a request from the Moscow City Police Department for their surveillance footage. And whenever you Google that, you'll come right here, which is beside this like frat building and also beside Idaho Realty, a real estate company previously affiliated with the King Road property through its manager, Dan Estee, as the manager of 1122 LLC, registered in Colorado. And precisely why people were probably interested in that Eugene wrecked Hyundai, because it too was registered to Colorado. And whenever Moscow came out to tell the public about it, they were all like, guess what? She doesn't have any connection to the victims and she doesn't own any property in Moscow. Interesting choice of words. It also just so happens that another Idaho location in Moscow for that Idaho Realty is right there on Main Street next to where Maddie and Santa worked and pretty close to the grub truck location. Now, let's say in a hypothetical situation, this property or company is receiving funds through illicit activity. The house itself could serve to front for transactions not only physically, but also monetarily. We're talking about cleaning money. So put simply, the property is acquired and it's, picture me saying this with quotes, rented out to other members of a syndicate.
Narcotics being sold and used in this case was not only astonishing, it has also reflected the very serious public health crisis.
Now, this can create a legitimate source for income for that company. In other words, the tenants aren't actually paying rent, but they're serving a purpose, serving a front for the property and whatever illicit activity.
Dude, I tend to forget about Alpha Kenny and oh man. It's just so weird to think about that whole situation. If you guys haven't seen that interview, he called in back when I was over on TikTok and claimed that his mother owned that property management company. Never had seen a live, never followed me, said he was just randomly scrolling on TikTok and requests to come up and join, talks to us for an hour, showed Kaylee and Maddie the house on a tour. So I have that posted on my YouTube channel. And yeah, it was weird.
Is surrounding the property or pertaining to the property, and they're able to clean a decent amount of G's a month just off of the faux rent that allegedly these syndicate members would be paying. Now, why would I bring up this hypothesis at all? Well, because they've been shuffling this property back and forth for practically no money. And in fact, there's only been 2 times that the property is sold for what appears to be a profit at all. And that was way back in the day before like I was even born. It was back in the 70s, you guys. Now, a part of the ownership of this will be a complex structure where the house and the assets are moved a lot. And this can confuse auditors or otherwise investigators trying to uncover money laundering or property and asset syndicates. Just the constant deeds and asset management changes, not to mention the address changes, the agent changes, and the LLCs that own those deeds. And you can have a pretty complicated auditing process. And again, all of this movement, I could put even more in here. Maybe I need to dedicate that to its own episode, because on top of these transactions that you see, again, where they're passing the property back and forth for practically less than $10, I think it was literally less than $10 in each transaction. It definitely was no more than 20. And that's basically like a filing fee, right? They weren't actually selling the house. Another alternative would be that they did sell the house, but they used an illicit profit, meaning not cash, in order to shuffle this about to the different syndicate members. Again, obscuring the auditing process. There's another hypothesis, including a property that's beneficial for packing or transporting illegal goods. This could be illegal weapons, drugs, money, name it. Humans. Not saying that that's what's going on here, but I'm just saying. Now, once these illicit goods would be packaged, it'd be great if they were in a location or property that could be chosen for its convenience, for a quick getaway or even a quick loading process. Well, with a parking lot right next door. All right, this definition can kind of be put into the safe house definition a little bit, but in many syndicates, they work as 2 completely different processes. Of course, it just depends, but this place is a perfect safe house, and let me tell you why. Because it's a bird's eye. So the place used to be all private. They knocked down the trees, fuck privacy. Who needs privacy? You gotta see what the fuck's going on. And guess what? It does seem like somebody's pretty vigilant. The cops roll up and motherfuckers are already on the roof looking from pretty far away. They knew cops were coming to shit on the day. And also where it pertains to the theory of the house being a trap house, one fact that I always notice that kind of doesn't align with that theory is that the windows are always open in this biatch. Always. And I ain't never seen a trap house that just had open ass windows like that. The views tend to be strictly when you allow it from the other side of whatever's blocking the window on the inside. But the bird's eye does work perfect for a safe house spot, meaning that they could be keeping expensive shit in the home and or storing it there until it can be processed and or loaded or transported. A lot of people have noted that there is the obvious missing wood that prosecution had already mentioned, that the place was missing floorboards and wood, and people have conjectured that this is asbestos, but hello, that level is not old enough to have an asbestos issue according to the blueprints and the proposal to build on to the address according to the records on the home. That upper level is not old enough to have asbestos. That is not it. And you can notice in Maddie's picture of her in her room, she has something blocking this wall. So you can see the wall is kind of, it almost looks wet or something. It's not the prettiest aesthetic value looking at it. And she makes it look very nice. Behind her mirror, she has these kind of sheer curtains or something decorated. And boom, damn, we make sandwiches and we decorate good too. Was something hidden in the wall? Many people have alleged that Xana hid something under her floor for some reason. Not sure why. There was, of course, the conjecture that she had actually asked her dad to come and fix a door for her, presumably her bedroom door. Again, that's positing things that I do not have the facts to. Now, since anyone has actually sat and watched all of the interactions on the accident,
dude, that changes the entire thing. And sorry, Hive, I just, my mind has been racing. This is right here, Alpha Kenny interview. This is the, you got to scroll down a little bit. That's the thumbnail for it. Now, after hearing this, it definitely makes when Alpha Kenny said that he's been under their house hit a little bit different. I'm going to go back and re-listen to that today or tomorrow, because now I want to go back and listen closely to what he said.
On videos with police and the Moscow victims before the murders, the alleged noise complaints. The cops are on 10 almost from the moment of getting there. It almost does make one wonder if they kind of understood that maybe the house and the fraternity was running a little bit of game on their own. And you do have the prospect that, Maximilian, the most glorious trap king there ever was, would certainly pay the max to, pay off the police. But maybe it didn't pay out this month. Maybe the police came to shake him down, or maybe it was used as a diversion altogether. Certainly a possibility. In this scenario, certain members of the syndicate would essentially send the police to these residents while they're turning the music loud. Everyone's like, who the hell's calling the cops? It's a college town. You would think that this wouldn't be an issue, but as I said, it did seem like they were expecting them. They were on the roof, so surely they were expecting them for a moment. And every single time they roll up to 22 King, someone standing in the window, multiple people standing in the yard. One time the police even wait for someone to come out when there wasn't someone outside prior to engaging. And despite knowing the cops are out there beating down and kicking shit, dumping beer, illegally searching backpacks, yet the girls are still kind of turning up at times, yelling, woo! You can even hear it after Beth answered the door. Yes, that's Beth. Do not write that it's not Beth or I will implode, because it's Beth. She has on the same shorts and she has on Beth's shoes. She's answering Beth's door because it's Beth. And even after Beth answers the door for the police, you can still hear some whooping. And remember that the dudes even mentioned that they had been sent out to address police before, and police were like, no, you don't own the place. Just go back in. Seems like they had played divert before as well. In this type of front, let's say, and again, total conjecture, let's say that someone's got some moves to make down the street. Maybe a party that's not so close by has ran out of supply. So say a party close by ran out of shit, they have to run down the street, but you know what? They're under heavy guard, because not only are they being policed by the campus, but they're being policed by a private contract with Moscow. Moscow even mentions this in their annual report as having lovey-dovey convos with the frats. Maybe the frats don't like it. Maybe some of them don't mind. So other members of the syndicate send the popo down there real quick. Like, yeah, you guys hang out for a while. Everyone's always conjectured why the hell it took everyone so long to answer, even during the day. Well, if your job was to keep a diversion and keep the cops at bay, so yeah, we all have our conjectures, but at the end of the day, I think many of us do feel like we're pretty sure that this house and possibly the residents were being exploited in some way. Maybe a few of the girls were no noobs to the game themselves. I really wonder about Xana. Everyone has turned up on her mom, and her dad goes relatively unnoticed as also having a record with the Department of Idaho Corrections. Now, from the dates of her dad's discharged charge and her mother's original charges, I believe what is happening to Kara is that she essentially just keeps fucking up her community release, parole, probation. This happens a lot. My dad, the last sentence that my dad served, he didn't even apply for parole because he fucks up on it so much. It's just not worth it. Sometimes you stay down the system for 10 years longer due to community release, being released back into the community on parole, probation, and an often unfair system that has already swallowed them up along with their addiction, etc. Now, I think Kara has gotten way worse of a rap than she should. It always irritates me that everyone assumes because Kara has some charges that she's a snitch and that someone retaliated against her. But Kara has the same damn charge right now. I mean, she's been trying to get this hunker off of her apparently for quite a minute, and none of her charges have actually decreased. In fact, she still has that delivery charge, what most of our jurisdictions will call a distribution charge. So again, when I see forums conjecturing about her and they're like, did she owe someone money and they retaliated because she owed her drug dealer money? And people are like, no, she's a drug dealer. And it's such a misconception about the way that the system works. Not only that, but Idaho has mandatory minimums. So anyone who has a attempt to deliver has a 3-year minimum to serve before they can qualify for community corrections. Presumably, she's already served that 3 years, and now she's kind of just arguing with her probation. Not to mention that Idaho does not distinguish between intent to use. What does that mean? That means that with a certain amount of substance, it doesn't matter if it were for your personal use or what your intent to do with it is. Not to mention that being right there in the Palusi area, she has the unfortunate circumstance of crossing the state line often, I'd imagine, and that can bring with it its own implications. Now, on top of that, we also have Ben, Maddie's dad, who also has a Department of Corrections felonious history that is easily available to the public, and so does his wife. And same situation. He has been discharged while his wife is currently in the system. I might have to make those full timelines for you guys, but the moral of the point today was just to point out that Kara's charge is very nuanced. There is no defense of intent, so it doesn't matter what your intent was at a certain scale, you get a distribution charge, and that is a 3-year minimum penalty in the system. It's pretty fucking sad. And namely, my point is, it does not mean Kara is a fucking drug dealer. Not to mention that whenever it comes to the street game, there are many different levels of drug dealers. And as far as someone who has the apparent addiction issues that she has communicated she is struggling with, she would not be very high up on the dope game. Not because she can't be, but because that's not her current situation. There was times where my dad was on top of the game, and Christmases, ooh boy, we got hella shit. And then there were times where I didn't even see my dad for Christmas. I was with my mom, and my stepbrothers were getting their shit sold for crack. So, sometimes it just be like that. Sometimes we were the kids of a man on top of the game. And typically that meant that he had his addiction somewhat under control during those times. You don't make a lot of money if you smoke a lot of your drugs. You don't make a lot of money if you snort a lot of your drugs, and so on and so forth. Not to mention that no one on top of the syndicate or even in the middle of the syndicate trusts a street level addict. And again, my dad's gone from the tippy top to the very bottom. And I mean, he's gone from the man manufacturing all the way down to being homeless and having similar predicament to what Kara is going through, as we can see from her transient charges, from being somewhere that she shouldn't have been loitering at that particular moment, right? And it ain't got shit to do with shit, okay? Because I can guarantee you'd be on the wrong fucking path right now. Had I been slain and you were blaming it on my dad or anything to do with this fucking job, yes, I just called illicit drug dealing a job. I didn't say it was a legal job, but it's a job. And if you were focusing on what my dad was concerning himself with, you'd have certainly had the wrong idea. And again, I want y'all to know how much Kara has my heart. Kara has my heart in a way that the other parents don't, okay? And no offense. I mean, empathy for all of them. You feel me? But point is, do I think Kara was being trusted to move enough drugs that someone would have went out of their way to not only off her daughter, but to off her daughter's 3 roommates? No. And especially not when we see a fucking control buy going down with what is obviously the task force in the Tri-Cities area the night that we know the murders occurred. I'm going to have to put that in a whole video itself because, again, that deserves a whole video. But I had a lot of things that I wanted to walk you guys through in the different scenarios. Hopefully, many of you are sort of wrapping your head around whatever your gut is telling you to go with, even if it, has nothing to do with any of the things on this playlist or this episode. Shedding light on these issues, especially where it pertains to addiction and social order and the way that Kara is treated fucking shittier than the other parents, and the way that everyone grandstands and the way that everyone drools over Ethan's parents. And it's like, you know, who the fuck can say you're grieving wrong or right? It's just, I don't know. Something about it gets on my nerves when people are like, oh, wow, you know, to only have their grace, you know, and I mean, that's fine to admire them for grace or whatever. To have the feeling, you know, that they're shitting on someone else's way of handling it. And the fucking comments about Kara sicken me. And yeah, I'm biased. Yeah, my daddy's a fucking crackhead. He was also a meth head and a coke addict. And mama prepared me for whatever the fuck you was going to say about it by being like, look, that's your daddy on the wall. He can't even come into the fucking store. So yeah, it pisses me off. Oh, she didn't even have anything to do with her for 20 years. Sorry, what? How the fuck do you know? That's one thing that irritates me too. Is the fact that people see you as not close to your parent because either your parent was an addict, or in my case, because your parent spent lots of time in state and or federal prison. I was very close to my father. And I'm close to my mother, but I was close to my father in a different way, in a way that's very special to me and very different than the way that I'm close to my mom. I miss him every day. And couldn't a fucking thing that anyone conjecture or says about him change that. And I think he would want us talking about it because enlightenment, wisdom. And I believe that the victims in this sense would approve, because I feel like either way you go with it, right? Either informant, undercover, you know, forced to snitch due to their own charges, whatever it may have been that involved Kaylee and Maddie either being unsuspected that night at the grub truck, whatever position that they took in that situation, this lets me know that many of the students in Idaho were obviously intimately aware of the struggle with illicit drugs and addiction. But they have that perfect victim vibe, and I believe a lot of people don't want to let that go. Oh, look at the fraternities. Aren't they all beautiful? You know, they look too nice. They're too fucking clean cut to be illicit drug dealers. Look at her, isn't she cute? Well, you would picture that, God forbid, if something had happened to her, instead of her getting busted by the DEA, the world would say she didn't have anything to do with drugs. You can't prove that, because certainly we wouldn't had the investigation not been announced due to violence and, you know, murder. Lots of undercover investigations, years and years worth of taxpayer dollars get thrown into covert ops that are not announced all the time. The absolute only ones we hear about are the ones that are public relations wise braggable. And honey, this ain't it. So they might would say, you know, we're crazy because she's so cute. But, you know, fast forward a year and she still apparently was a part of illicit drug trades and got busted again in Operation Firecracker. This is prior to being busted as her part of the syndicate at the fraternities and during the universities undercover. Cover, cover, cover. You know what they say about books.
So I know that was a little bit longer of a Hive Mind find, but my entire reasoning for showing that is, while yes, it's, you know, a video from a while ago, and while yes, there are people who have gone way deeper on it, if you haven't been kept up to speed and if you're newer in the Hive, one of the, I would say, actually, I'll ask the Hive, for the people that have been here for a while, what would you say are the top questions that we get? Like, I'll say one. One is, why did Bryan Kohberger take the plea deal? You know, what would be another one? Because I'm curious as to what you all see in the chat, if it's going by while I'm scrolling. And yes, that was Neek's Peaks, by the way. Just so everybody, if you guys want to check out their video, here is her channel. Why did they wait 8 hours? Explain the DNA. Why did they tear down the house? Why would they frame BK? Why purchase a K-bar? Why is everything such a secret? Why do they do a secret grand jury? Another 8-hour question. How's the C gang and the AB or the AK involved? Where's the picture of the sheath? Where's the blood at? Water tower video. The sheath. YBK. Yeah. And I got these new like animations on the top of the screen, so I'm working with trying to get them to float. But Neeks Peaks crushed that. Why did it take so long for 911? So my point that I'm getting at is, does anybody here feel like we have those answers to any of the questions as you guys are reading them, scrolling through the chat? The short answer is that the mainstream media has given you an answer. The news has given you an answer. You know, the entertainment company that has billions of dollars behind it for funding for ratings. So if you were to strip away anything that the script enforcement unit and the NPCs that believe everything about Bryan Kohberger, what question? I'm serious. I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. What questions have actually been answered about this case? They are narrative answers. That's it. They're also narrative answers that have not swayed one bit. They are written in stone. They are cemented down. They are locked in. And like I said, if Bryan Kohberger, I'm going to make a prediction. It's probably the third time that I've said this. Mark my word. If Bryan Kohberger does not take any moves to appeal this, he is a part of some sort of investigation, and they are going to have him Epsteined within a year in prison. Once that plea deal date passes, mark my words, that's why they're narrative planting that seed of the complaints, of the harassment. It's why they were so intense in their victim impact statements. They're going to Epstein him. He's either going to have reports of him committing suicide or someone's going to kill him. And if he doesn't take the moves to appeal it, I'm telling you, that alone locks in about two theories. Either that dude is just fully cooked and he got absolutely railroaded, or he's a part of it. It's meaning like an undercover type Fed operation. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that Bryan Kohberger, I'm not even going to go ahead and if Bryan Kohberger is involved, there's no way he's involved alone. And there's no way that he would be involved, in my genuine opinion, unless he was told to go there by somebody in law enforcement that, like, I'm telling you, there's nothing in the police reports, whether it's ISP, whether it's Moscow PD, there's nothing. You got a bunch of girls that are mad at him for mansplaining. And then they got a genetic, whatever the fuck it is, the IgG test off a Q-tip from 2,000 miles away. It's just insane, guys. I mean, I don't even think Bryan Kohberger's the cleaner because, he knows criminology and you know, he would know how to do it. No, I don't think so. I'm telling you, I think that Bryan Kohberger is playing a role to keep that operation going. It's the only thing that makes sense. I don't think that he was the getaway driver. I don't think that he did the cleanup. He didn't have any connections to the victim. They couldn't put him in the house. You saw what they just said about his cell phone in the Hive Mind find. You know about the DNA doubling in size, no chain of custody. I mean, come on, guys. Take Bryan Kohberger's name off of it. Take the Idaho 4 name off of it. This is with any other names, the most corrupt abuse of our justice system of all time. I'm going to go ahead and say, too, I've talked with Will, the dude that I interviewed that's Brian's friend. He's texted me a handful of times since we've interviewed. I've asked him, do you have any pictures of you and Brian from back in the day? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have anything? He's like, hell no. He's like, that was years ago. And also, I never kept it once he got clean and all that stuff. And he would say, like, he never saw Brian use, ever. Brian would only go with him for the pickups that were in Patterson. Then I think to my interview with Scott Payne, who was undercover inside the Outlaws, and how he talked about, yeah, I got to take this test and then I got to go do a pickup later. I'm undercover currently. And we can wrap our heads around it. If you were to just, you know what, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll write out all this stuff without Bryan Kohberger's name, without anybody's initials. Shit, maybe I'll just actually replace the name. How interesting would that be if we replaced the name Bryan Kohberger, we replaced the victims' names, and before also too, like literally before some clown walks in and says, their names matter, and blah, blah, blah. You're being okay, yes, I'm aware of that, and I'm not saying that they don't matter in the racing of it for that. I'm trying to say that if you were to just put it on paper and lay this case out and show it to a random person, actually, you could probably show it to somebody who follows the Idaho 4. I wonder if they'd even recognize it without that name attached to it, because I don't. How many people do you think would recognize the Idaho 4 case by the ISP docs, by the Moscow PD docs, by the court case docs? How many people do you think would recognize it without, if you took out the victims' names, you took out Bryan Kohberger's name? I don't think they could. I'm serious. Like, you could, the amount of people, I opened TikTok last night before going to bed. And I don't know why this bothered me, because like, I didn't say anything. I didn't comment. I didn't, whatever. I just saw it and I heard about 12 seconds of this video, full transparency. And I read about 2 or 3 comments. This person, this creator on TikTok, was calling it bedtime story and reading to her followers Bryan Kohberger's complaints. And the comments were just like, oh, I had such a rough day. This makes it all better. Oh, they sound like fucking psychos. They do. Like, to say that you're going to read a complaint about BK in prison and that's some sort of like bedtime story, that's weird. I'm sorry. Even if he did it, that's weird. Come on. You're doing nothing but trying to get clicks and clout and all that other shit. At least I could sit up here and I can stand in front of this mic and this camera, and I can guarantee you that everything that I'm saying with the narrative around this case and the bullshit that's going on in our court system, and rather waking up people to the fact that this doesn't make any effing sense if you take their names off of it and you look at it on paper and take the emotion out of it, take the blinders off. I mean it all. My theories, they could be wrong. They could absolutely be wrong. Shit, how would I know? How would you know? How would the news know if it's Witsec, if it's a ritual, if it's everybody is speculating. But at least when I'm speculating it, I'm trying to piece together narrative, documents, the stories leading up to it, the rumors, 4chan, Reddit. I'm talking with the Hive every night. I'm hearing all of your guys' comments. I'm putting them on screen. We're doing Hive Mind finds. We're doing all this shit. So at least I can come up here and say, I'm not just going to, I wonder, because everybody's like super anti-BK right now. I'm going to call this a bedtime story. I just can't. It bothers me, not because it's Bryan Kohberger, everybody. So don't get that twisted either. What bothers me is if Brian's not a Fed, and if Brian's innocent, Although he said he's guilty, that's exactly what a Fed would do if they're taking the fall for a thing. And then they're going to, I feel like it's so easy to understand that I can't even explain it because and that's ass backwards. But I mean that. It's like people go, well, why? It's like a little kid, like, well, why would they do that? Well, why? But why wouldn't they? Do you think that if they're trying to take down a cartel or the Aryan Knights, they're going to tell the entire world, hey, Bryan Kohberger, he's not really the guy who murdered them. We just don't want the cartel and the Aryan Knights to know that we're onto them and we're currently investigating them. We don't want them to know that. We're just going to put this guy out in the public while all the victims are allegedly connected to these groups and their parents, have had, issues with it and they're addicts. And no, they wouldn't tell you. Come on. Why would they? They wouldn't. It would be stupid. It'd be pointless to even have an operation ongoing at that point. And I don't know why that's so hard for people to wrap their heads around. Well, why would he take the plea deal? Okay. If he didn't take the plea deal for future wiggle room legally, then it's 100% they're going to Epstein him in prison. And it's that's the other thing too, is like, that's not a conspiracy. What about I just said is a conspiracy? Are there undercover operations that our government conducts with the FBI and the DOJ? Yes. Do they use college-aged CIs? Low-level CIs? Yes. Would it be unreasonable to think that if some of the victims' parents had cooperated with law enforcement, they'd have a target on their back from the gangs that are on the Pacific Northwest Highway who have infiltrated the University of Idaho and Washington U? That's not a conspiracy. Is it a conspiracy that frats use drugs or sororities use drugs? No. Is it a conspiracy that law enforcement's corrupt and has been caught in the past working with said groups? No. Have the cops ever framed somebody to cover up their corruption? Have people ever been framed in the past? And would a university do whatever they could to protect its own ass for tuition rates so that the money doesn't stop flowing in each semester? Have people taken a plea deal to avoid the death penalty? None of that is a conspiracy. All of that has happened many times. Have we ever had a false flag operation conducted on a have we ever had a false flag operation try to convince the public to believe things so that the public sentiment would allow government overreach? No. Of course they've never done that, right? They've never just taken down 2 towers. They've never lied about a ship getting bombed in the Gulf of Tonkin. They've never done so many psyops on us that now there's people like ourselves that think everything's a psyop and you've just absolutely effed us up mentally because we don't believe anything that we hear because we've been lied to. And I'm sorry. If I'm saying this to you and this is the first time you're hearing it, don't be mad at me. Okay. I'm just the messenger in this because it's happened. It's all happened. This case specifically was on the world news. And I'm sorry, the little old hive mind in Birdie is not going to ever reach as many eyes and ears as the world news. We can do as good of a job as we can here in the Hive and continuing to spread the word of it. But let's be real here. The creators that have questioned it, trust me, We are not the problem. And I can promise you that nobody is going in wanting a murderer to get away with it. Nobody is trying to disrespect the victims or victim blame or victim shame. Those are buzzwords, just like pro-burger. Those are buzzwords, just like conspiracy theorist. Those are buzzwords like extremist. And they work because the script enforcement unit comes running around the corner, foaming from the mouth, ready to defend a narrative more than the freaking journalists that wrote it themselves. They'll burn bridges over it. They'll ruin relationships over it. They'll flood your comments with it. They'll call you every name under the book. They'll make it personal against you rather than even talking about a single fact. Oh. It's just, it's tough. It's tough because when you try to have a conversation with somebody, I'm probably going to say, I bet a lot of people here in the Hive have experienced this around this case. Let's say that there's small talk, the Idaho 4 comes up. Somebody says something. You're going to make one of two choices. And this is like a mainstream talking point. Like, oh yeah, did you see that Bryan Kohberger got life in prison? Yeah. He took the plea deal to, avoid the death penalty. Oh, dude, that guy's what a monster. I mean, he's obsessed with them. He's stalking them. Serial killer. You're either going to bite your tongue or you're just going to say, oh yeah, it's crazy. Because there's no point, especially when you don't have the time to sit down and talk to anybody about it. They're going to think you're crazy. It's the same thing like if you tell somebody that MK Ultra is real, the CIA dosed people with LSD. It's the same thing that if you tell people that the government has literally, the FBI had an undercover agent inside the mob who they helped commit murders and frame other people so that he could stay in the mob. Greg Scarpa, look it up. But his DNA was there, bro. His DNA. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I'm sorry. I went completely just blinders on. Like I got to snap out of this. Oh. Okay. If you guys want a 30-second Cliff Note version of what that rant just was, if you had skipped ahead and now you're here, I wouldn't necessarily blame you. But I put out this Substack article today. It's Brainwashed, why the media needs NPCs to protect the narrative. And the NPCs are the volunteer security guards of the narrative, right? They're human firewalls in action. They fight so hard. And this is kind of just a portion of the article that I wanted to read. So I'll sum it up real quick. The NPCs, they will fight harder for the lie, or they'll fight for the lie harder than the journalists who wrote it. They'll ruin relationships, burn bridges, and spam your comments, all to defend a narrative that doesn't even belong to them. If you're still buying tickets to the media's theater, you're not just clueless, you're the fucking problem, period. You're the reason the lies keep working. You're the reason the corruption keeps winning. And until you pull your head out of your ass and stop repeating every headline like it's gospel, you're nothing more than a volunteer prison guard for the very cartel that is choking you out. The mainstream media does not cover the chaos. It creates it. War, division, manufactured outrage, lies stacked on lies. And that full article is now up, but I just... yeah. So, all right, I want to do something here real quick. And as a reminder, tomorrow night, it's live dig, or Fridays are always the live dig nights. So I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to try to find my top 10 sound bites. Not just, I know that it still says 1112 King Audio, but I'm going to try to find 10 wild sound bites between the grub truck, between the Linda Lane cameras, between this footage. And I'm going to find what I think sounds like something. And then that way, for the live dig, I don't have to click around and take all this time messing around on Soundtrap. I can get the audio adjusted somewhat beforehand and have the clips already separated. I think the viewing experience would be better, and I think it'd be more effective for all of us to dive into it and listen for what we hear. Now, the tinfoil hat conspiracy today, this actually is courtesy of Sherlock Holmes. This is about 9/11. I've never seen this before. I've never known this connection, rather. So I'm going to pull this up. This shit was crazy. That's not it.
Story about a Chinese spy that you...
Why does TikTok do that shit?
This 9/11 connection is blowing my mind. So Marvin Bush, George Bush's brother, Marvin was working at a security company called Stratosec with this guy, Barry McDaniel, who, in his own words, said he was in charge of what he called a completion contract to provide services up until the day the buildings fell down. Okay, so the security company, Stratosec, which was working as a security detail for the Twin Towers, was also working security detail for United Airlines, which flights 93 and 175 were United Airlines flights, as well as the Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C., which is where one of the other airlines, one of
There's some people saying that they can't hear the volume. It's just quiet. I don't understand why TikTok goes so quiet. I don't know if there's... I have my volume all the way up. And I'll double check it on the browser settings, but I just... Yeah, TikTok is so quiet. I'm looking around, Hive. I don't know why it's... I got everything at full volume here. It is as loud as it can be.
This 9/11 connection is blowing my mind. So Marvin Bush, George Bush's brother, Marvin was working at a security company called Stratosec with this guy, Barry McDaniel, who, in his own words, said he was in charge of what he called a completion contract to provide services up until the day the buildings fell down. Okay, so the security company, Stratosec, which was working as a security detail for the Twin Towers, was also working security detail for United Airlines, which flights 93 and 175 were United Airlines flights, as well as the Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C., which is where one of the other airlines, one of the American airlines, took off that supposedly hit the Pentagon. And it just keeps getting better because they also contracted for Los Alamos National Laboratories, which, if I had to place a bet on where I think the nanothermite was developed, it would be Los Alamos. And then this company, Stratosec, which had been around since the late 80s and had just went public in 1997 but was a thinly traded stock, their stock price doubled right after 9/11 because so many more companies were looking for security. They're like, oh shit, we have to run from terrorist attacks. We better invest in security firms. But was Stratosec a good investment? No. It ended up basically dissolving in 2002, completely going bankrupt before 2004. It was almost like this company had fulfilled its purpose. And if all of that wasn't fishy enough for you, just wait for this one. The director of Stratosec, this guy Dexter Walker III, was also the chairman of Eigenhawk, which is an investment firm that made a shit ton of money by putting shorts on United Airlines just days before the towers went down. Funny how the director of the security company for the Twin Towers happened to also work at a bank that made money off of shorting one of the only two companies that got absolutely fucked because of the Twin Towers going down and, being hijacked. Never forget and remember that as the government grows, so does the shadow of tyranny. This 9/11 connection.
So I forgot the username who just said it. That is a new conspiracy. And I'll play this. Please. Jesus H. Now that was loud as hell. I apologize. At least my ears, it was loud. I don't know why that. Okay. TikTok lowers the volume on conspiracy theory videos when people are streaming, so they have to open the app and watch it on the TikTok app instead. I believe that. I believe that from multiple data points on this stream, that TikTok is always quiet. It's not quiet when I'm not live. I watch it on my computer all the time, and I don't have to turn it all the way up. So I apologize for your guys' eardrums. And now you guys, if you couldn't hear that, you probably just can't hear anyways. So I'm sorry about that.
We're going to talk.
As a reminder to Deb Janice, K-Boss in 99, and Namastella, please shoot me an email. Confirm that you guys could be on the Hive Mind Roundtable. Thank you so much to everybody that did submit to be in it. I think we finished with like 32 people that submitted. So if you didn't get chosen this time or the last time or the time before, don't stop submitting it, because I really do it generally at random. If you put a few sentences into what you wanted to discuss, I kind of look for the 3 that have somewhat overlapping topics but are different, right? So there's still going to be a common ground of a theme that we can go different directions on. But with that being said, Hive, I hope everybody has an awesome night. They get some great sleep. They go into Friday strong, ready for a fun and relaxing weekend. And remember, obedience is the real prison. Don't live your life at 70% because you're afraid of how it might make others feel. You only have a limited time on this earth. Live it at 100%. Who cares what people think of you? I can guarantee you and promise you that nobody goes home and thinks about your life as much as you think they do. Everyone's got their own problems. Everyone's worried about themselves. Do you want to, start a stream? If you want to start a band, if you want to start a podcast, if you want to start writing, if you want to start drawing, just do it. You don't even have to tell anybody. Do it yourself. Do it in your office. Do it while you're at work. Pause. But on a real note, don't live your life at 70% because you're afraid of that overshadowing question of, well, what are people going to think of me? Who cares what they think of you? There's going to be a lot of people out there that will like what you're doing, that will support you. And with that, Hive, I hope everybody has a great rest of their night. Please hit that subscribe button and the like button on your way out. And I will be back on tomorrow evening for the live dig at 7 Central. Cheers.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.